Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call to order the special city council meeting workshop for Tuesday, May 1st, 2018 at 6 o'clock. Tonight's call to order, and there we go. Tonight's discussion is of Guthrie Court Ordinance on noises, inclusive but not limited to. Chapter 14, offenses, Article 6, loud noises. Chapter 13, nuisances, 13-1. Nuisance defined in 13.2, certain nuisances. Resolution number 1997-25, Central Business District, and summary comparing noise ordinance in other towns. We also have a draft of our original orders with us, so I'd like to start it off with, we have, how do we want to do this? Have guests here speak about this. I'm sorry. We have.
I'm Roy Jones.
I'm sorry?
Roy Jones.
Roy, nice to meet you, Roy. Ed Wood. So, we're here to start talking about the
So
noise.
when we say central business district, is that all we're talking about on this noise ordinance, is central business district?
No.
Okay, then
but
why are we defining it?
At our last meeting, we handed out a map based on our zoning map that identified the central business
Okay.
district. We went back to the actual ordinance, and the central business district is larger than what it shows on our zoning ordinance, or
Okay.
zoning map.
Okay,
And so it was a point of clarification, because some people were relating the central business district to an entertainment district
I see.
and suggesting that there might be a different level allowed in the central business district than other parts of town.
I see. Oh, we got a whole group and no chairs, Leroy.
There's three down here. There's chairs in my office too.
I'm good.
Okay.
There's two over there.
We can get some more chairs in here, guys.
Yeah.
I don't think we got a new file cabinet, so nothing's coming through there. I can't barely fit through that.
It serves its purpose then, doesn't it?
You stopped all that, didn't you?
Ouch.
Fix that.
We may need to adjust that. You might want to find your piece of paper. I remember how to do it once I did it. All right, so we clarified that, central business
Well,
district.
yeah, now do we need to redefine a central business, or I mean, as far as a central business district as opposed to, say, an entertainment district in the downtown area? Because according to this map that shows, it seems
Pretty wide.
it's pretty big and includes some areas that I wouldn't think would be included in a, say, an entertainment district. And then it doesn't include, say, the flats, Cottonwood Flats, which would be really our major, one of our major entertainment areas.
This is over on my phone.
Yes.
Noble's over here.
See, it's going from Ash all the way down the railroad and from Vilas to Cleveland.
Yeah, Violet, so
That's pretty wide.
pretty wide and long, and then it doesn't, like I said, it doesn't have any Cottonwood Flats in there, and that's where a lot of, say, our festivals and things take place.
We may not have had any complaints down there since it's fairly isolated.
And this has been a number of years ago that this was.
1997.
Yeah, this was probably, they probably had houses down there. Some,
I don't remember when that was.
They were still out of Weems,
yeah,
So
they're
were
in,
they, okay.
and then they. I
Not
remember
all of them, they were taking them out.
That was about that time, and then they did that movie down there, Twister, and they were, built a lot of homes down there, sets.
At our last meeting, of course, we had a workshop on the noise ordinance, and we were pretty much limited our discussion to the areas that we've had recent complaints on, which is in the downtown area. When we get ready, the police chief has prepared it's not in ordinance form because it doesn't have the title on it and that kind of stuff, but he's prepared a draft ordinance that, for the most part, follows the guidance of the Norman noise ordinance, with some exceptions he pulled from other ordinances. It would cover a level of noise by decimal for all zoning districts, based on the type of use for that zoning district. Residential would be one level, industrial would be another, downtown business district would be a different one. So it covers all of the community in a different zoning by classifying the zoning ordinance. Now, if you wanted to make exceptions and say you wanted to include Cottonwood Flats to have the same level as the central business district, then the ordinance could be tweaked. And you could say central business district and then identify certain segments of a zoning district and identify Cottonwood Flats by a description and say, by exception, that has a different level.
Or just include it in as an entertainment district.
Yes, but if we identify it by zoning district, anything if it's in the zoning district, we would need to pull it out as an exception if we're gonna have a different standard for that.
So why is this existing ordinance not enforceable? Because it clearly tells me from 12 to 7, you gotta be quiet. That's what it says.
I will let the police chief address that, because they're the ones that have to go down there.
The problem that we had, as we discussed before, we have more than one ordinance in there. So some people want the midnight ordinance enforced, some people want the ones enforced that has no time limits. It doesn't, the way we have it right now, it's loose as a goose, I guess, for lack of a better term. And everybody wants us to enforce it based on their interpretation of whichever ordinance they
It's
feel
just
most
poorly
applies
written.
to them. Well, of all the other cities I've looked at, we've got more pieces in our ordinance that deal with noise than any other city I've looked at. And I think that's partly just because we haven't gone back over them on a semi-regular basis to ensure that we're staying on top of reviewing them and updating them as needs arise.
And what the chief's talking about in section 13-2, it says certain nuisances general, they continue making of loud or unusual noises which annoy persons of ordinary sensibilities or the keeping of an animal which makes the noises. Well, that's pretty broad.
And we get calls to enforce that ordinance at 10 o'clock in the morning.
And that's what the original, that's what our ordinance says now.
Yes.
So,
There's about
Yeah,
12 different places inside our ordinance book that address noise.
But let's go to the music one. What section is that? I'm not finding it.
14-103, Article 6.
I thought that said midnight to 7 somewhere in there.
It does.
Huh?
It does.
Okay,
But
so
it
that's,
doesn't mean
so how, I mean, if it says midnight, right?
Should be page 3. It's between the hours of 12 a.m. and 7 a.m. in a manner as plainly audible at a distance of 50 feet from the building, structure, or vehicle in which it is located shall be prima facie evidence of a violation of this section.
It's that plainly audible.
Now define plainly audible.
Can we use a decimal system like Oklahoma City did when they had the racetracks down there? You had to have it less than 100 decibels for the race cars.
And that is what the police chief is trying to do in his draft ordinance that we'll hand out.
If you had that, you'd have something to work with.
Well,
What kind of decimals do you have in there?
Do you want to go ahead and have,
Yeah, I can see that.
Don-
No, in the proposed, you've got a draft.
why don't we go ahead and hear
Yeah.
what Don put in, because right now we're looking at what we have, and obviously we're having issues with it, so
Yeah.
how can we tighten this up and make it?
I need another, if you got another one down there? I got it.
Okay, somebody.
I need one, I give one.
I'll share it.
You need one? You got it?
so on the second page is decibels. They're proposed.
So I get a ticket every time we have a council meeting then?
Absolutely.
You're sitting there writing me a ticket.
They'll just give you the book, the whole book.
I'll just write my own.
These sound like, these aren't bad at all here. I want to share that one.
He's sitting right there in South, so we really.
I've got it.
That phone is bullshit.
Yeah.
Now, these are just proposed, and these are told from like 13 different places. Now, what I tried to do for the decibel limits is, I didn't try to take the highest, I didn't try to take the lowest, I tried to be middle of the road.
So what is a 75 decibel? What does that sound like? Does that, I asked before, does that thing give a noise? Show us what it
No,
sounds
it'll tell you
like.
exactly what it is. 75 is 56 here right now.
Okay.
But it doesn't go up, I mean, decibels are measured oddly, so just because it goes up a step, you can't say that's 1% or 2%, because it almost doubles each decibel it goes up.
It's running 57 to 60 here.
And is bass
Mine was
recorded on
showing 80.
decibels?
Yes,
Decibels?
Bouncing
yes.
around 80.
And we've got a place in
76.
here, so when you're looking for bass, you're subtracting 5 decibels off of this listed decibel amount.
Would it be helpful, you had this at the last meeting, would that chart be
I
helpful?
don't know what the damn or not. So, yeah, Leroy, let me see that real quick.
I can make some additional copies if we need.
So, 70 decibels, this says is like a busy road. 80 decibels is a loud radio. 90 decibels, noise production hall. So we have that.
Production hall?
Yes.
Okay, Gary.
Would that be, what are the decibels at the place where the plane is coming from? In other words, if you got,
I don't have a decibel meter, so I haven't measured them.
okay, but the question is, when you're measuring decibels, and there's a certain limit, was it 75, is that what?
That's what
It
he
says 90 here.
So the question I would have, would that be where the violation might be taking place?
No, it's measured,
50 foot
like,
50
we
foot.
haven't set out in here how far away it measures, like 10 feet from
Okay,
the
50
source.
foot from the plane, okay.
Yeah.
okay.
10 feet?
Yes.
It's pretty close. Most of the city stuff that we did in Oklahoma City, I used to do it down there, it was 50 foot. I did the sheriff's office.
Some of the 50 feet ones now are mostly, all the 50 feet ones now are mostly related to traffic stuff. And it might be 25 feet.
Yes.
Oklahoma City's 50 feet in their ordinance, and their decibel, and I'm looking at their decibel chart, and all of their decibel numbers are lower than the numbers over here.
They're
And
lower.
they use the term in Oklahoma City, it's plainly audible, 50 feet. I don't think that's ambiguous at all, and I know you could sit around and argue plainly audible, but you can also be Bill Clinton and argue over what is.
Right.
Right?
But I guarantee you, if we took everybody separately in a room, we would come up with different definitions of plainly audible. This ordinance does have a definition for plainly audible in there. But what it says is, let's see, for vehicle noise, 25 feet, vehicle noise that's off the public right of way, like ATVs and stuff like that, 50 feet from the vehicle's path, and other sound generation is measured 10 feet from the place at which the sound is being generated or produced.
10 feet.
10 feet,
It's pretty close.
pretty
It
normal.
ought to be plainly audible at 10 feet. I think.
Well, this is for decibels.
Yeah.
This is for decibels.
So what are we gonna do? All right, so I'll save my question. How's that, for sake of time?
And then it allows in here too for, in the nighttime hours, plainly audible at 50 feet from the place that the sound is generating is presumed to be 75 decibels.
Right.
Or greater. And then we can flip to the back and then read you the definition of plainly audible. to get
I
back
can
to
live
that.
that. 75 decibels, 50 feet.
Plainly audible noise, any noise for which the information content of that noise is unambiguously transferred to the listener, such as but not limited to understanding of spoken speech, comprehension of whether a voice is raised or normal, or comprehension of musical rhythms.
You don't have to be able to hear the words as long as you can hear the rhythm.
That's what it
Don't
says. So
start
that's for you all
dancing
to
because you get a
decide.
ticket when you do.
You what?
Don't dance. But then planes, we don't, again, I go back to the plane thing, because like on my property, I get a whole bunch of these antique planes flying over. and-
Planes are excluded.
Yeah, okay.
Planes,
Those are flying in my
trains.
airspace, the way I look at it.
The government doesn't see it that way,
Well,
but you can take it up
but
with the
they're a
FAA.
couple hundred feet off my ground, that's
Right.
pretty low.
Right.
But it lasts for probably 30 seconds, not 4 hours though, probably.
Probably.
Correct.
But I don't mind it, I'm just saying, I'm
Sure.
just asking
Sure.
on the example of it.
Sure.
But yeah, you're absolutely right, it's only a quick.
Gary.
Yeah.
I would like, I wasn't at the last workshop, and neither were my neighbors, we really didn't know about it, I'm sure it was posted, but we weren't privy to it. And I watched it like 3 times, it's like 55 minutes. I would ask if you guys would indulge me for a few minutes to.
Well, I'm sure
Yes,
they will.
absolutely.
Okay.
You got the stand?
I'll just stand right there. My name is Gary Good. I live at 323 West Cleveland, here in Guthrie, Oklahoma. And this is kind of an overview of what we saw, and I spoke with our neighbors, and we watched the workshop, you know, on the video. On the surface, this appears to be an issue that involves myself, a few neighbors, and here we go. It also appears it's about allowing historic downtown Guthrie to become an entertainment destination. But actually it has nothing to do with that. That question is the integrity of our historic downtown. How we operate now, how we will move into the future. What's being proposed and considered could allow new business to either lease or purchase a building and open an establishment which could then infringe on the rights of surrounding neighbors by disturbing their peace and quiet, as well as their rights to live, be the landlord of an apartment, bed and breakfast, hotel, or any other business they choose. The question here is not whether we want downtown Guthrie to become an entertainment destination, but whether we want to change a city ordinance as a reaction to an isolated problem. Downtown Guthrie is already becoming an entertainment destination. This has been building since I first purchased downtown property 12 years ago, and it continues to this day. We have our regular events, the Victorian Walk, Guthrie Escape, Art and Wine Festival, 89ers Week, Byron Berline shows, and various parades and celebrations. Then about 5 years ago, we began having street concerts when the ladies at Prairie Gothic started them on 2nd and Harrison. This was followed up by Red Brick Nights, a huge draw for our historic district, and of course the Gentlemen of the Road event put this town on the world stage, and we pulled it off without a hitch. The past 2 years, we've added the 4th of July fireworks display with Red Brick Nights, which draws thousands to downtown Guthrie. These are all great events, and besides a few headaches regarding traffic and parking, all the downtown building owners and renters deal with it. Why? Because it's obvious these events are enhancing the quality of life in Guthrie, as well as attracting others to come and experience our historic and well-preserved downtown. These are all good things. So why would I say our current noise ordinance issue has nothing to do with these events? Because each and every one of these events, in particular, end by 10 p.m. And they go all through the proper procedure to get a special permit from the city of Guthrie. Most of them are either once a year, or in case of Red Brick Nights, once a month for 5 months, so 5 times a year. None of these events would require the city ordinance to change the noise ordinance by loosening or extending the hours to 1 or 2 a.m. There's simply no reason to, unless we want to give a bar a license to blast music throughout our downtown till 2 a.m. The facts are these. As our city manager stated in the April 3rd workshop, when the owners of the Ames building at 322 West Oklahoma leased the building to a prospective bar that would open, the city was supposed to consider such business for a special use permit that would allow them to operate as a bar with live music or DJ. This was not done. This is in the city's own bylaws, which for some reason were not followed. Henceforth, the bar was opened and soon after began having live music. Almost immediately, there were problems. Now, it's noted here that none of the current city council, nor the city manager or chief of police were in place during this time. All this preceded the current leadership. All the properties surrounding this bar were there before the bar. The Russells lived next door, and now it's Jerry and Renee Brady. Ben and April Kaufman lived on their second floor, and I had my Magnolia Manor retreat, as well as the old amphitheater, our residence and event center, just behind. The bar came in after we were all there. I applied and was granted a permit to have a bed and breakfast hotel and in my place, and I have that posted inside the door. Everybody calls it a bed and breakfast, but we don't serve breakfast there. But
Where's the breakfast?
whatever. For both of the bars that have been there, Halftime and Roosters, there have been numerous complaints. It has been a problem since they opened. Our municipal court found the previous bar owner guilty of violation of our noise ordinance, and there are currently 2 complaints awaiting a court hearing. When Mr. Arrigo leased the building and was planning his bar, he connected with the Brady's next door and told Renee he was aware of the past problems and wanted to assure her that he would not be doing the same thing. I also met with him, and he stated he wanted to be a good neighbor and work with us all, so sound will not be an issue. He has failed to follow through on any of this. His sound is a huge problem and getting worse. It seems that every time he has a new band or a DJ, the music is louder. I've tried to work with Mr. Arrigo directly on the sound issues, but on December 16th of last year, we had a couple come to celebrate their first wedding anniversary. They had been married at our Magnolia Moon 1 year before and wanted to spend their anniversary in the same suite they were in on their wedding night. At approximately 12:15 a.m., they sent me a text saying the music from the bar was so loud they could not sleep. I texted Mr. Arrigo, but no reply. So I called his cell. He answered and was very short with me and told me, just call the police, which I did. The police came, but the music never really went down. Our guests sent another text at 1 a.m. saying that it was impossible to sleep and they were going to drive back to Oklahoma City. I refunded their money, and of course I was heartbroken. Christina and I have worked very hard to make this a great place for guests. 90% of our business is on weekends, and that's when Mr. Arrigo blasted us out. In this same suite, we have housed the Gatlin brothers, Mumford and Sons, the young actress from Southern Christmas, as well as many brides and other guests. The bar noise will not allow these guests to come back. I understand the city is struggling with this issue. However, residents suffering from a noisy neighbor, we are also struggling. We have an ordinance in place that is not being enforced. We're simply asking that the existing ordinance be enforced. Many people I've spoken with are confused as to why the red carpet seemed to be rolled out for the newly arrived renter in the form of these workshops and the apparent desire to accommodate his noise. I know Mr. Arrigo is an ex-policeman. His relative is a city employee who apparently alerts him when a complaint is being filed, after which he shows up at City Hall and harasses the party making the complaint. Police won't enforce the noise issue. Why? The judge recuses himself from the case and sets the court date almost a year after the complaint. Is this serving and protecting our citizens? I don't think so. And although not related to noise, we're having to construct a fence between our property and the bar because their patrons and our employees have come out their back door onto our property, trespassing, urinating on our property, all while we have guests within view. We have this on security camera. It also should be noted that during the workshop on April 3rd, when Mr. Arrigo and musician Joe Craven, who plays at the bar, were present to make their case, there were many comments and statements made that were simply not true. Mr. Arrigo stated that he always turns down when asked. Not true. Even when the police come and he apparently takes them to the soundboard to show them turning it down, when they leave, it goes right back up. All 3 of the surrounding neighbors will concur with this, and you can surely ask them. Mr. Arrigo also stated at the workshop, and Joe Craven agreed, that I use his bar, Roosters Hard Times Club, on our website. to promote my business and have pictures from inside his bar.
I couldn't find that, by the way.
We don't have now, we have never had any photos of his bar or any verbiage about his bar, either showing or speaking of his establishment. To sum up, although me and my neighbors are the ones having the noise issue now, this is not simply about us. This is about an attempt to fundamentally change the structure and landscape of our historic downtown district. From a place where all businesses, residents, and guests can cohabitate in a town where bars are given precedence over others. So, is there an issue here? Yes. Is there an ongoing problem? Yes. However, I contend that you don't solve a problem by changing the rules after the fact. If the city decides to loosen its noise ordinance to benefit bars in downtown, they will be saying to all other residents, building owners, or guests staying in these downtown buildings, you don't matter. Their rights are not important or valid in historic downtown Guthrie. And this would not be a place where I'd want to live or own property or even visit. I don't know what's going to be proposed as a possible solution, but if the city weakens the noise ordinance and extends the hours for downtown, it will be a blatant move to appease a bar owner who has no regards for his neighbors. I emphatically hope you will think long and hard about taking such action.
I'll give a rebuttal on that. First off, Jerry, I bought that property 25 years ago, long before you were ever around. It was in a commercial zone. There
Did you have
was
any
no
bands there?
The what?
Did you have any music in there?
Fossil did, long time.
That's what I was talking about, sir.
Well, you're talking about, you got Rooster now. Fossil's been gone for.
He was here before Fossil.
Yeah.
We were there before Fossil. We had a permit for a hotel before Fossil.
There was another bar before Fossil, back in, a long time ago.
Not when I was here.
Yeah, I've owned it 25 years, and I was told it was in a commercial zone. There was no noise abatement in a commercial zone. I've got commercial properties in a lot of places. There's no noise abatement in a commercial zone. If people want to live in a commercial zone, you gotta put up with the noise. You can't change it because you want to turn it into a residential area.
Excuse me, it was a gymnastics
Yeah,
studio.
one time it was a gymnastics studio. It's been a lot of.
Until they came in because your building was falling down.
We rebuilt the whole building. We built the entire building. I spent over $200,000 on it.
I hope so.
I did. I spent a lot of money on it. We restored the whole entire
Because you tied
building.
into my building.
We rebuilt the whole thing. And the back of your building, the lady owned it before you, she built that two-car garage back there, never pulled a permit on it.
That's wrong.
Yes, she did.
That is very
I never
wrong.
saw a permit. I tried to
You
find
are
it.
totally off base.
I never
on
tried,
that.
I tried to find it, couldn't find it.
All right, but what we're talking about is noise ordinance right here. Yeah. That's what. the
If you
mode
would
of
set
this
some
is.
kind of a decimal that he couldn't go over, I'm sure he would stay within that.
I would be very happy with the bar behind us. I've been in the music business my whole life. My father before me. I book bands for a living. I love music, and I have no problem with the bar being there, honestly. I have a problem when my guests in the bedroom can sing along with your band. That's what I have a problem.
Well, Gary, you filed like 69 or
Yes,
70
sir, I did.
complaints.
Yes, sir, I did.
You lost them all.
I have not lost one.
Well, Gary, he didn't pay any fines. Paul's never paid a fine one.
Bravo. We went to court and we won.
No, you didn't.
Ask the city attorney. He's sitting right there. Ask
Also
him.
lost, also paid.
Paul's never paid any fines, as far as I know.
Don't care whether they paid a fine. He was found guilty of.
But for the sake of argument, this isn't about an argumentative scenario. This is about trying to come up with a solution. Because I've known Gary for a long time as well, and just on the side of it, I know that you're into music and you love music. So I mean, it's kind of hard for me to believe that that he's making false complaints.
Byron Berline, I've taken decimal readings outside of his building when he's having his deals down there. They're louder than the Roosters is. I got times and dates that I took them. I used to do it for Oklahoma County.
Is the back wall thin?
I'm gonna have to disagree with that, because we live right there, and I hear roosters, but I don't hear
But
Gary.
you're not
Feel it
near
in your
Byron
chest.
Berline's down there.
I'm sorry. The center of our living room is within 50 feet from his band stage.
Yeah.
It goes through block wall, 2x6 framing, and double.
When you bought that, did you not
drywall.
know that there was a bar next door?
I have admitted to knowing that, and I didn't have as much trouble with Fossil as I have had
Fossil would
with
turn it
Lewis.
down.
Fossil had a lot hard rock music, a lot louder than this guy does.
I have tried my hardest, and I've been extremely patient with Lewis.
Well, I
I
guess-
have proof of every text that we have had, and I have tried to deal with it that way. 2 weeks ago, I had to call the police because there's a fight outside of the bedroom windows out front. Off on the corner, there's people smoking dope. I'm sorry, I don't know how this benefits.
Excuse me,
We're
everybody,
getting way off.
excuse me,
Hang on.
excuse me, like, just a second, I think we're getting off track here, we're really trying to, I understand that there are issues between property owners and everybody around, between noise and other things happening in
There
the
is.
area. And I mean, we're here tonight, and I mean, this really is all about, we're trying to figure out a noise ordinance, if, you know, or try to make it where everybody's is happy as best we can to make everybody, business and residents, get along down here. I understand Gary's problem. We've talked, I've known you for a while. I understand the complaint. I know that what Roosters is going through, they trying to run a business. So I think that, you know, we've been trying to talk about, we're trying to get, the chief has put together a different noise ordinance to try to get things and so that we can all be better neighbors.
Well, but I do want to jump in real quick and assure Gary, we're not trying to eliminate an ordinance.
No.
That was never the deal.
That's not.
The deal was, why aren't we being able to enforce an ordinance? And Steve mentioned maybe making it at 10 o'clock or something. Okay, I don't know that I don't know that the community, I'm talking about the community. I've polled a lot of them. Okay, want an ordinance that shuts everything down at 10 o'clock. But at midnight, I don't know why we're not enforcing that, to be quite honest, because this clearly tells me at midnight, you gotta shut up. Is what it says.
No, I agree.
And there is no, it's plain as day, it says that.
I would agree the enforceable is ambiguous enough the rest of the time, but other than midnight to 7 a.m. But I think it's clear enough between midnight and 7. There's no reason it can't be enforced. And I'm sorry, I've never met you. I'm guessing you're
I'm Roy Jones.
Roy. My name is Lynn Bilodeau. My wife and I live at 215 South 2nd. So we live in the Central Business District. That's our home. And I 100% disagree with your statement where if you're going to live in the Central Business District, you just have to be able to accept the noise because there should be no noise abatement. There is noise abatement. The current ordinance includes this district. And even your lease, when you leased this place to Lewis, covenants by lessee, it will not create any odors or noise on the leased premises that may be offensive to other neighbors. That doesn't sound to me like a commercial lease with no noise abatement in the area. And that was one of the covenants that he signed on the lease when you guys did that lease. He had to attach that lease to his permit to be able to sell the low content alcohol. And so that's one of the things that everybody could have looked at and said, well, we're not going to object to a bar going in. He's promising not to create any noise, and obviously there's a lot of noise being created here.
Can I go ahead, finish.
I'm very concerned that if we roll back this noise ordinance in any way, now I don't have any problem with going to a decibel limit. I want it to be reasonable limits. I want it to be at least as low as what Oklahoma City has. I'd expect Guthrie, Oklahoma to be a little sleepier community than the city of Oklahoma City.
What is Oklahoma City?
They're for all different kinds, just like the chief has all these different decibels. At the back of their ordinance, they've got a chart with it for different decibels. But I think many years ago, people started making their homes in the Central Business District. And it's a mixed use, it's not pure commercial. And that's a whole different ballgame. And I can see, I've got a little couple that lives across the way from one of our properties. They're 92 and 82 years old. They're within throwing rock distance, spitting distance of a building that could very easily be turned into a nightclub. And I can just imagine if that nightclub is allowed to keep going after midnight, that poor little couple's never gonna get any sleep. And it's not just a commercial district, it's a mixed use district. And let me tell you, I love living in downtown Guthrie. I'm so proud of Guthrie. I talk to friends and they say, why in the world would you move to Guthrie? I said, you can't believe how cool Guthrie is. Guthrie is the coolest place. I've got the coolest neighbors. I love where we live. I love the neighbors. I love the police department in Guthrie. We have twin grandsons that they're 5 years old now. Last year when they were 4, without an appointment, they wanted to see the police station. We had them for a day. We walked by there and one of the older officers took them on a tour of the building. It was a thrill of a lifetime. Gave them little junior police officer badges. I love what the police did. And policemen park in the lot next to our house, and I'll go out and offer them a cup of coffee or something sometimes, and I tell them, I appreciate you patrolling out here. I appreciate the police. I understand that Mr. Arrigo is a former police officer, and if something's railroaded through, I'm just saying, I know everybody wants to avoid the appearance of impropriety, but it sure looks like police accommodating a former officer. You know what I'm saying, and I'm not accusing anybody of doing that. I just say I don't want anything to look like that, and I don't know if it's a fact that Mr. Arrigo has a relative on staff that has alerted people, but if that's happened, that's a big deal. I don't think you guys want that happening in the city of Guthrie. So I hope this is really about the noise ordinance and how we can coexist peaceably, but
That's what we gotta come to the bottom.
that's it
of.
exactly, and I don't have.
That's what we're
I'd
gonna
be
do.
very
But I
happy if
sure
you
don't.
would set a decimal system. He will stay within that. I will see that he will do that.
So,
Why don't we have
like
like
this
this
ordinance works for that?
I think that would work for that. He
So have
did
you
a
got a
great
chance to
job.
look at the ordinance?
Do what?
Have you got a chance to look at it?
I mean, I just got it the same time you guys got it.
Yeah, we
so
all got it.
And I received an email today from Joe Craven, and he can't be here because there's illness in the family. It's not necessarily my complete position, I'm just repeating or passing on what he asked me to pass on. But even though they're asking for a 1 o'clock instead of a 12 o'clock, that's what their statement is. And they are really interested in going to a decibel measurement at a certain distance, and they have assured me that they will stay within that if we can put that into effect.
And so why do we have to have the?
No, I'm through, yeah.
Why do we have to have anything about that? Why don't we just have plainly audible from 50 feet or 50 yards or whatever you want?
Who's gonna say it's plenty audible? I mean,
It doesn't have to be, that's what I'm saying, do away with that part. If you can hear it 50 feet, you're done.
Yeah, but what if you're deaf?
The-
You can't hear.
Right,
You
and that's part of the issue, right?
Right.
That's part of the issue is it leaves
Subjective.
the door wide open for subjectivity. So why a bunch of places are going to the decibel system is because we can buy an instrument that's certified by NSTI, set it wherever we're supposed to set it, and it tells us. So me at 21 would hear a lot better than me at 50.
So they do in Oklahoma County. I
And
used
so
to do
you're
it.
seeing more and more people go to this. I don't have a huge horse in this fight, but it is easier to enforce. Here's the line, not I come out being an older guy and I don't hear it, and I send another guy out, he does hear it.
What I'm saying is I don't understand how plainly audible clarifies anything. It just makes it muddier.
Yeah.
No, but that's what's already in the ordinance.
That's what's
That's what
there.
they're saying they want to.
They have plainly audible in there with no definition.
Well,
This
we're
one
talking-
also has plainly audible with a definition. You have to hear it from so many feet away and
So many decibels.
We're not talking about taking it away, we're just talking about
defining it further.
So can I
This
ask
puts just
you,
a hard number
like in
to
our-
a noise. It can be whatever.
It's just
Situation.
a plainly audible thing, just doesn't make
Where
any
there's
sense.
a
Well, then
resident,
that's where the
and
noise.
That's where the
with sheriff
confusion's
on
coming from.
involved.
Right.
Too much
And that's what it is.
So if I feel like the base
That's what we
is
have
too
right
high
now with the
and
decibel
reasonably
level that
bring
part.
the-
It would-
We would come, under this system, we would come out and measure it, and
Two.
it
I
may
mean,
be
but
yes
you
or
would
maybe
come into
no.
my home
So
and
that'd be
there's,
based on
I'm
decibels
just,
only.
Yeah.
50
I
feet
mean,
away.
I know that I
They're
understand
over.
completely
Right.
what you're
Let's
saying.
all-
There's
let's all
gotta be a
not have
line so that
sidebars.
it
Let's-
defines that
Sorry.
line.
Correct, and that's,
Definitely.
I put this together, and I like the decibel system because it draws a line in the sand that every party can understand. Where what we have now, we have words in there that are vague and ambiguous, and they are hard to enforce. I can tell you, we do get the majority of our complaints come from the bar, but like I said earlier, midnight, we start getting calls about 9 o'clock.
Well, this is my next
Well,
question.
that makes, and
How
you
many,
have dogs barking out in the neighborhood, and you have other things
Right.
going on too, but, and this ordinance should also include that, not just.
It does
well,
include that.
Everything else should include.
Everything we
residential
have
areas and everything.
that addresses noise in our ordinance now, I've tried to put it in one place.
Where's
Now,
that
it's
rated?
16 pages.
Yeah, I still
but-
have to read it, 16 pages, I haven't read, I just.
Correct, but it is in there. I tried to cull everything and put it together in one place.
So how
And
many
it's not
bars, how many
contradictory.
other bars in this community are there complaints on, noise complaints?
Occasionally, we've had them from every bar, but not,
But what-
not at the, not at the
Percentage-wise,
level
if you
we
were to-
have. No, this is 90%. But when you start, and like we talked about before, this is not just to address roosters. This is, we
It's
have
gonna be
the
all of
same
them.
problem in the neighborhoods too. Barking dogs, teenagers, up all night, playing loud music, doing all kinds of stuff you don't wanna know.
Yeah.
So you go out there with a meter, sit out in front of the house and say, here it is, go knock on the door, lock it down, say, here it is.
Shut it
Give
down
them
or take-
either give them a warning, or if I'm back here one more time tonight, y'all are in.
Correct.
Getting a citation, basically. or
And I mean,
whatever.
it doesn't stop us from issuing citations now, but like I talked about before, you know, the judge is really, our municipal judge is torn on the whole subjectivity of our ordinances.
Okay.
So that's all we're gonna try to do is tighten it up.
I think you got a great
Just
idea.
make it understandable.
And our
Or at least
municipal
understand.
judge can't hear the case that we're talking about, right?
That's totally not up to me.
Well, that's what I hear. He had to recuse himself, so we don't even have a judge.
Why can't he hear the case?
Well, the reason it was so far set off is because we have two judges, and
It was set off for the alternate judge to hear.
Yeah, the alternate judge
recused himself.
only
had
has so
conflict of
often.
interest.
Well, that's like the 1800s waiting for the marshal to come into town.
yeah, well, and there's,
Well,
that's
if
not
we
the
have
first
to wait
ridiculous.
time
a
I've heard
year,
that.
It's
if we
what
have to
that
wait,
is.
if we have to wait a year to be heard for a complaint, our business could be closed by then.
And I'm here to address the problem that I can try to address. I really do understand that. I mean, it's not very speedy that way, and that strikes my heart as not being just, but that's not my area of legal expertise.
Why is the judge having to recuse himself on this deal? Do you know?
I do not know.
We need to find out why that is.
He had a conflict, but I don't know what
Huh.
Well, there was something to do with the owner
we've
of the
got an
bar
alternate
and the judge. I don't know what it is, and maybe we should check further into it.
Well, either that or see if we can't get an alternate judge.
Yeah,
Quicker.
September is a long
Yeah.
ways away.
Yeah, that's a long time.
It's really not fair to have to wait that long for a municipal issue like
It
that.
sure doesn't feel that way.
Well, maybe we can fix something in the meantime. I think that's what we're trying to put
But it's,
together. is
okay, it's
something-
obvious we have issues here, and we're trying to get this worked out for everybody to be, at least have an ordinance that is enforceable, that you can go into, so that when there is an issue, it can be dealt with, because right now, it's just everybody getting along. I can see that there's a lot of.
And what we pass
issues.
out tonight is a lot, I mean, it's a lot of information. And, you know, my suggestion to you is, most everybody that has a vested interest has received a copy of it tonight. I'm gonna tell you that, you know, tonight wouldn't be the night to make the decision. It would be to let all these people look at what I propose and then provide the council with feedback.
No, this is gonna have to be looked at, obviously. We can't really do it, we're not gonna do anything.
Correct,
with this,
correct.
Because it wouldn't be fair to anybody.
No,
It wouldn't be fair.
no, I mean, it wouldn't be fair to you to try to say, hey, we need it tonight. And these people all have a vested interest.
Exactly.
So let them, you know, do your comparisons and talk to the councilman and get back with them. You know, I am a proponent of the decibel system because it's black or it's white. But
And Chief, talking about a difference in the base and the low end and the high end, will you have meters for both?
well,
That's what my
there
question
are 2 ways to do that. I come to find out where we can get an A weighted decibel meter, or we could get a C weighted decibel meter, or we could get one that does both. How most places seem to be doing it is sticking with the A-weighted meter, and then we come out to measure for bass specific, what this ordinance says is we're gonna subtract 5 decibels from the A-weighted. And that was my choice based on all the information that I called. If someone would prefer to see an actual C-weighted measurement, it's not a huge deal to me. It was easier to do it, simpler to do it with the subtraction method. But if you want to see an actual chart that says, hey, here's what we're going to be looking for when we measure C-rated sounds, bass, that's totally fine with me, and I can change that and put it in here.
Well, I think that's the concern, is the bass. isn't it?
Well, and I don't understand all the C and B and whatever else, I'm not an expert in that area.
Well, they ran into a lot of problems with A-weighted because A-weighted is based on normal human hearing of voices, which works really good for music and stuff like that until they found out that it didn't work very well for bass.
Well, and a good example of that is exactly what we're talking about with this particular situation. Because sometimes Thursday nights are karaoke, Friday might be a DJ, Saturday might be a band, and sometimes
Sure.
it switches. But I can be in that one suite on a karaoke night when it gets turned up too loud and sing along with the song.
Sure.
And you can't sleep with that either. But, you know, when the DJ and they have the bottoms, you know, with the bass, that's a whole different type of sound, which really kills you as well. So both of those are a problem if it's close enough to where you have people trying to peacefully be.
And you know, I made recommendations. I don't set the rule, but one thing you do want to look at in there, I think, is on that chart when I did commercial and residential and industrial in the central business district, I gave, based on what I thought the direction the council wanted to go, I gave the central business district the same decibel rating as industrial. So that's a lot of sound.
It's a lot of sound. Yeah, and as a homeowner in the central
Sure,
business district,
sure.
I would strongly ask the council not to consider the same noise level industrial as you do the central.
And that's what I did
That's the
based on
highest
what I thought I had
number.
direction to do. But I'm not trying to hide it. Look at it and make your suggestions.
My question is, where's that direction coming from? Who's saying they want industrial sound downtown?
No, it's based on when we were talking about having all these other entertainment venues and
Well,
stuff.
yeah,
like that.
let me interject there and just say, and to kind of reiterate what I said a minute ago, we're not dealing with our red brick nights and the other things that go on that everybody wants. I want them too. We're dealing with when somebody's trying to go to sleep at midnight and the music is coming from a bar. I don't know if there's a consensus that wants that. I haven't heard of it. You know, I know the musicians at the bar and the bar owner would, but I'm not sure everybody else wants that.
And that's
But I think
why I'm throwing that
yeah,
out there.
If we're
You
going
make
to make
your
the ordinance, we
recommendations.
want to address everything because
I agree.
someday, somebody's going to have a problem with the fireworks or red brick nights. And if we do one ordinance that addresses all that, where it has a curve and there's a standard.
Well, then you also have the flip side of that where, and I'm just playing devil's advocate here on the shoulder deal, where I'll use Chili's, for example, they wouldn't be the one to do it, but all of a sudden you have a big organization, restaurant, bar type thing that's in other states, comes in, maybe chain deal, buys a building, wants to put a bar on the top floor of the building, kind of like the Publisher building or something, wants to make the whole roof a bar, and they don't, because our ordinance is too tight at that point. Now, but midnight is still, I think, flexible enough, which is the way it's stated right now. I mean, after midnight, you shouldn't be hitting the music probably should die down, is all I'm saying, after midnight. But are we gonna chase those type of businesses out of here? Do we want those type of businesses in here?
I
That's
think
the
if a
key.
Chili's came to town or something similar to it, they would buy a building, fortify it, it would be soundproof.
That's the
Nobody would
next
be
thing.
talking about it.
That would be the next thing.
And
is
this
that I don't understand why
spends
they're
some
not.
time addressing,
Soundproofing and
well, codes for
something.
new businesses or, I mean, we can't go back
Right.
in time and force it on
And
everybody.
I do realize that Leroy stated that if somebody else desires to do that, that they're going to get that scrutiny, and I appreciate that. But we're dealing with something.
And this ordinance gives this city manager, any city manager, a lot of flexibility as far as permitting and allowing some businesses in. And that's probably something the council needs to take a look at, because you're telling the city manager that.
Well, special events.
Well, let me ask you this,
Well,
Roy,
that's
are
flat.
you able to soundproof that building?
You know, I build Marriotts, I build Hyatts, and I can't make a Hyatt soundproof. I really can't. You can come close, you can double it quite a bit. Paul's will put a bunch of dead soundboard in the back of it, and it did deaden it out a whole bunch. But when I was outside in front of the building with Paul's Lights bands playing at top speed, I couldn't get a decimal reading over 50.
But I think we're talking the back of the building, aren't we? See, I think
Well,
that's where the whole problem
Back
lies.
and sides.
We're not talking
I've
about the building.
actually had the base rattle pictures and the chandelier crystals on my wall.
Like Jurassic Park.
Chief, it's possible for me to say something. I'm a resident right behind the building. So I've heard both sides. And I've been affected by the noise. And it's well over 50 feet away. I've been waked up at anywhere from midnight to 2 o'clock in the morning. I've called several times. I hate to do that. I feel like the residents and the bar owners should go into this with a spirit of cooperation. If it's bothering the neighbor, maybe they should be able to call the bar owner or whoever's running the place and say, the noise is too loud tonight, and have some cooperation. So we don't have to have stuff like this. One of the problem that I had 7 daughters. And one problem that I have is not me personally. I'm not an owner, I'm a resident. But I was speaking to a neighbor one day here a couple of weeks ago, and she mentioned that her mother or her someone had been picking up conduit in the place, not just on the property in front of the bar, but the parking lot in various places in the mornings. Well, go figure, you know, go figure. You got a lot of drunks that don't care. Okay, there's some of them. My concern is that this is a historical district. It's open to everyone. The children that are being raised here don't need to walk down the sidewalk. Somebody said balloon to them over there. You know, it's an issue that I would be up in arms about if I was in this thing and had it fair. That's all I've got to say. We gotta think
Chief,
further than this.
does your ordinance allow the city manager to give special use permits for, say, like a 3-day period for like a 4th of July celebration, things like that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
The 3 things I'd urge is, number 1, lower the proposed decibel limits for the central business district. To make that the same as industrial 2 is just off the charts nuts as far as I'm concerned, as a homeowner that lives downtown. Also, I think the decibel limits after midnight ought to be lower than the rest of the other 17 hours in the day, from midnight to 7. And still allow the special use permits. There's no reason we can't have special use permits for special events, but you're talking things in Oklahoma City ordinance, it's very clear. Those are issued for a 3-day event or less. So there's no reason we can't do that. And I think y'all ought to really look at the Oklahoma City ordinance, noise ordinances. It's pretty comprehensive. It's got decibel limits on it, but there's none on the whole chart all over Oklahoma City other than the heaviest commercial. Well, the highest decibel limit they have on their chart, and this is right off municipal code, 80 decibels. And that's even in industrial areas. And here we're looking at doing 85 decibels in the central business district. That's nuts. That's nuts.
They do reduce it from 1159 to 659.
Okay.
Down to 65, but I'm ignorant when it comes to that. What does 65 decibels sound like? I have no idea.
Brian,
I really don't either.
Is that it right there?
We're hearing it.
Is that it, really? Am I at 65?
You probably are, from you to me, from here. Now, if I'm out on the front porch, you're not 65 out there.
No, but, okay, so I see what
Exactly.
you're saying. So you're hearing this out in the middle of the night.
Exactly. If I can hear it as plain as I can hear you right now, you're
Okay.
probably over 65
Okay.
when you speak.
Told you, I'm gonna get fined all the
See?
time, man.
Yeah, but they'd have to be able to hear you out front of the building.
That's true, 50 feet.
That's right. So you're probably safe.
Well, and I have to say with the other, we chose to move downtown Guthrie. We came from Edmond, out in the country, and we chose this. And we love it. And it's safe. And we also appreciate our police department. I feel I can walk at night and I'm not concerned. Right now, in the 4.5 years that we have lived here, a lot of businesses have closed downtown. I believe, and I don't know how you find out, there are a lot more apartments occupied than there are businesses that are open. And I think it's a category of people that are choosing to live here and they need to be listened to.
Yeah, I had that conversation earlier.
That's a very good point, and I'm going to bring this up. We have 5 minutes left. If there's anything somebody wants to say really quick, I think we've pretty well covered everything tonight as far as the chief. Thank you very much for putting this together for us. I think we've heard from everybody that has issues with the noise on both sides. I think we need to keep looking at this a little farther, a little longer. I'm not sure tonight is the night to take it anymore. I think we pretty well covered this. It is in the city council for us to continue, but I think since we have this needs to be studied and we can go on from there. And I appreciate everybody coming tonight and giving their views.
And if we have it on the agenda again, of course it'll be on the agenda, but we will try to call people aware. And the only thing I have at the end is now that we're making this residential with decibels, I'm gonna have to check because I snore pretty loud. I don't want my wife. The chief.
You gotta be 50 feet away, so you're covered.
I don't know, you haven't heard me.
I have one question for the chief, because we keep talking about from the, are you talking about measuring from the back? Because again, that's where the issue's happening here, is the back and the side.
No,
So
it's
you could be
the-
out on the road and you might not have the 50 decibels, but you're in the back and you got 80.
Right, yeah, well, it's.
Or you're in the
The
structure
way
next
it's set up
door
right
with
now
a
is 10
common
feet
wall.
from the source.
There's a lot of things that we're gonna have to look at, because
Right.
there are common walls. You have a common wall. That's within 50 foot of wherever, so
Right.
we're gonna have
Or
to.
the
Well,
front
I got
door
10 foot in
opening.
his, which makes more sense.
I think so,
Okay.
and you're probably gonna have people that say 10 foot's not enough, and you're gonna have
Yeah.
some people that say 5 foot sounds better.
But you have it in the back,
So-
sides, everywhere, or?
It would be any,
No,
any
it
direction.
just says like 10 feet from the source.
So
Okay,
any direction.
So it could be anywhere.
And so she asked, because she backs up to it, would I come measure from her
You come into her living room and there you
And
go.
the answer is if she's willing to let me, I guess I'm going to, because that's where she's saying the violation
Well, I'll
has
put the
occurred.
coffee pot on, how's that?
Okay.
Well, I do agree that I think we need to look at this and look at other city ordinances too, but you've already done a lot of this. You've looked at a lot of different cities. I guess there's part of Oklahoma
And
City.
yes, and there may be stuff in there, it's like the decibel levels.
Right.
There were a lot higher, there were a lot lower. I tried to pick a good middle of the road.
But
If
you all
think it
like,
shouldn't be
you like
industrial,
Oklahoma
then.
City.
You like Oklahoma City.
Did you look at Edmond too?
Well,
How are they doing?
I mean, the first time I looked at it, it was,
I don't remember
They got a little area.
I don't remember.
I think it makes sense. I didn't even look to see which all zoning classifications it was. I just think the central business district ought to be way lower decibels than in any industrial district.
Okay. Well,
Mr.
no,
Jones, are
because we
you
do have
familiar with
people-
Oklahoma City?
Sir?
Are you familiar with Oklahoma
Yes, sir.
City? And are you comfortable with that?
Yeah, if you make it like Oklahoma City, I have no problem with it.
okay. well,
Oklahoma
that-
County has, it's countywide.
If we have that noted. We have a couple more minutes to get down to city council open. I'd like
Yeah,
to
that-
close
can I
this
get a copy
tonight,
of that?
and we will pick this up again at another time on another workshop. So